Hi, and thanks for joining me again. Today we're going to be talking about yin yoga and postural conditioning. Postural conditioning is a term that I have sort of coined to talk about the way that we hold trauma in the body. Postural compensation is the way that we shift our weight to compensate for structural abnormalities in the body. For example, my husband's flat-footed, and so he holds himself differently, and subsequently, he rolls in and pronates his feet a little bit. This causes pressure on the ankle joint and can cause torque on the knee, and it can impact the hips as well. That's a postural compensation for an abnormality or a variation in his anatomical structure. Postural conditioning is a little different though. Postural conditioning is the way we hold based on intellectual and emotional trauma and limiting beliefs. When I feel like I'm not worthy, or when I feel like I've been hurt or I'm unsafe, I round and I hold, I protect my vital organs. And that's normal and it's unconscious. Postural conditioning is something that affects and impacts the fascia tissue in the body. The fascia in the body is a containment system for the yang tissues or the muscular tissues in the body. It covers all of the musculature of the body and contains it, hydrates it, and provides an energetic transfer system for the energy to move through the muscles. Fascia comes together like this. Imagine that my fingers are lines of fascia and they're all running side by side. Now, if you do this with me, you take your fingers and put them together, interlace your fingers, and then turn your fingers away from you. And feel that connectivity. There's a connective structure there. Now, when I stretch or I come in and out of a vinyasa pose, for example, and maybe I'm holding for a minute and a half, I pull on those fibers and then they come back to normal. I pull and they come back to normal. Pull, they're back to normal. But what happens when I hold for a long period of time? Let's say I round on my back like this, protecting my vital organs, my heart, my stomach, my solar plexus. This causes long-term elasticity. It gets into the fascia and it changes its shape. So let's do that one more time. Interlace your fingers together and then look at your hands. You'll see your hands interlaced. Now pull and then come back. You can see that that is easy to reform and we don't lose any space in between the fingers. But if I pull enough to slide the fingers away from each other, and then I try to get them back, I can't do it without opening the fingers and repositioning it. This is one of the principles of fascia called elasticity. When we move into the stretch for too long, over time, it creates a different sort of elastic structure, just as if you were pulling a plastic bag and unmolding the plastic. When this happens, the fascia is actually reshaped in the body and it impacts the way that we hold in our posture. Postural conditioning can be reversed, and typically it is reversed through activities that engage the entire body, like running or rebounding or vinyasa yoga or mountain biking. Restorative yoga helps to remold the fascia. Yin yoga doesn't do the same thing. In fact, yin yoga is not designed to work with the fascia, it's designed to work with the plastic tissues. That being said, when we have postural compensation, like rounding in the shoulders, or when we have postural compensation, like swaying in the low back, then we can do these things like rebounding, running, jumping, swimming, etc., these whole body activities, and follow it up with yin yoga to create a new postural change. So again, we're not really working on remodeling the fascia at this point. The activity that's engaging the whole body at once is remodeling the fascia, sort of shaking it out. Just like you would if you were to take out a linen shirt from the washing machine or the dryer. In order for it to not wrinkle up, you would shake it out, right? And then maybe hang it up or maybe even hang it outside. And that hanging would get it to sort of fall back into place. Well, in the same way that hanging something out to dry or putting it on a hanger in your closet helps it to come back into an appropriate shape, our yin practice can help us to undo the doing of postural compensation. It's not that it's working on the fascia, it's actually working on the muscles in the body and the joints in the body and the way the joints are either in flexion or extension. Flexion and extension comes from the joint itself. It doesn't come from the muscle, really. The muscle is what brings the joint into flexion by contracting or releasing. So if I am in flexion, let's say spinal flexion like this, I'm slumped over and I'm protecting all of my soft bits, then I go and I run or I rebound and I get all loosey-goosey. Now I go into a supported fish and I open. I'm opening into extension. I'm retraining this joint of the spine to open up and to be an extension. And that will help to remold the fascia and the muscles and the joints in relation to their range of motion. Yin yoga has so many benefits, and I highly recommend incorporating it into your personal practice and teaching it to your students. Remember, yin yoga is not flow. Yin yoga is slow and static. We hold postures for 6 to 10 minutes at a time. We do move in and out of postures, and you might have maybe 10 to 15 postures in a yin practice, but it is not restorative. It is not passive. In yin yoga, we feel intense sensation, whereas in restorative yoga, we feel very little sensation at all. These are very important nuances to remember as you start to sequence, practice, and share yin yoga with your students.